I still remember that morning in the neighborhood, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath just for you. My Tesla sat in the driveway, spotless, gleaming under the early sunlight, a mirror of the careful life I'd built. I had just stepped inside to grab my coffee when the first sharp crack echoed. It wasn't loud, but it was precise enough to freeze me mid-step, coffee sloshing dangerously close to the rim. Then came the second, followed by the unmistakable screech of metal scraping glass. I bolted outside, heart hammering, and there she was, Cho, Karen's daughter. Of course, she was barely 16. Hair perfectly coiffed, sneakers planted on the hood of my Tesla, and that expression, a mix of mischief and entitlement that looked genetically encoded. She smirked down at me, that smirk teetering dangerously between amusement and pure disdain. The windshield bore a massive spiderweb crack, and the front bumper was dented in a way that made it clear she'd put thought into it. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, struggling to keep my voice steady. She shrugged casually, like I was nothing more than an annoying fly. "Mom says this neighborhood belongs to us. Maybe you should read the HOA handbook more carefully." I blinked. Did she really just say that? My coffee trembled in my hands, entirely forgotten. She had just smashed my car because her mother claimed ownership of the street. And now, apparently, I owed her respect. "Respect?" I repeated, stepping closer, hands on my hips. "You owe me a new car, not respect. 6 figures to fix this." Her smirk didn't waver. That's when I realized this wasn't a prank. It was a full-blown declaration of war from HOA Karen's family. I fumbled for my phone, hoping maybe I could call her mother and de-escalate things. But of course, that would be too easy. Karen answered on the first ring. "Why are you yelling at my daughter?" Her voice was cold, the kind that creeps under your skin and makes you question if you've done something wrong even before you realize it. "She smashed my car," I sputtered. "Oh, she didn't smash anything. She just corrected your poor taste in parking," Karen replied, as if lecturing a toddler. "I've told her this is our neighborhood. You should be more considerate." The word considerate echoed in my mind as I stared at the cracked windshield. My Tesla, my pride, my little slice of order, reduced to twisted metal by a 16-year-old and her delusional mother. This wasn't just going to be about insurance. It was personal, and it was about to escalate. By the time I hung up, my hands were trembling, not from fear exactly, but from the surge of adrenaline when you realize your world is about to be hijacked by entitlement. Choa Karen wasn't going to apologize or write a check. That would be too simple. Within the hour, she arrived in her oversized SUV, that signature glare plastered across her perfectly made-up face. The whole street seemed to freeze as she stormed up my driveway, heels clicking like warning bells. Cho lounged in the passenger seat, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won a trophy. "Do you see what you've done to my child?" Karen demanded before I could speak. "She was teaching you a lesson about respect." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My Tesla was still smoking from the impact. The hood was crumpled, the windshield shattered. And now, apparently, my dignity was also under siege. "Respect," I managed. "She smashed my car. Do you have any idea how much?" Karen's voice cut through the morning air like a chainsaw. She stepped closer, practically hovering over me. "I will not tolerate you disrespecting my family. My daughter did exactly what any child should do when someone like you parks like a—" She paused, eyes narrowing. "You know what? Never mind. You clearly can't be reasoned with." Then she smiled. That terrifying, condescending smile, the one that says, "I will crush you and you'll thank me later." Insurance only covers so much. "The damages—" I tried to keep my voice calm. Karen arched an eyebrow. "Pay? Oh, sweetheart, you misunderstand. She owes you nothing. In fact, I think it's you who should be paying us for inconveniencing my daughter." I froze. My brain skipped a beat. Deadly serious. She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a venomous whisper. "Welcome to the neighborhood. My rules, my street, my daughter. And don't think this ends here. We'll make sure you regret ever thinking this driveway belonged to you." I stared at her, mouth open, unable to process the audacity. Every logical part of me screamed to call the authorities. But a smaller, sinking part knew exactly what we were dealing with. The HOA had become a personal thief, and Karen ruled with an iron fist wrapped in entitlement. Cho rolled down the window, laughing softly. "Better call your lawyer, old man," she teased. "You're going to need him." I clenched my fists. My Tesla, my pride, and my patience were all on the line. But deep down, a flicker of determination sparked. If they thought I'd fold, they were sorely mistaken. By evening, the neighborhood had transformed from serene suburbia into a tense battleground. My Tesla sat in the driveway, now cordoned off with caution tape I'd grabbed from a hardware store, looking more like a crime scene than a car. I was scrolling through repair estimates when the unmistakable roar of tires shattered the uneasy calm. This was aggressive, deliberate, meant to intimidate. I sprinted to the window just in time to see HOA Karen's daughter gun the engine of her mom's SUV, drift dangerously close to my driveway, then peel away in a squeal of rubber. I stormed outside, furious. "Really? Really? Do you have a death wish?" I yelled. Her head popped from the passenger window, grin wide and smug. "You just need to learn your place," she called before flooring it again. I caught a glimpse of Karen in the driver's seat, clapping like this was some twisted performance. That night, I called my lawyer. He was blunt. "6 figures isn't a stretch," he said. "They've essentially admitted liability by bragging about it, but you have to move carefully. This is HOA territory. They've got influence." Sleep eluded me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smirk, the spider-webbed windshield, their arrogance replaying in my head. I imagined confrontation after confrontation, each one worse than the last. By morning, I knew I had to escalate. The next day, I cornered Karen at the HOA office. She was waiting, smug as ever. "Oh, it's you," she said, cocking her perfectly coiffed head. "I see you still don't understand the rules." "This isn't a game," I said, forcing my voice to stay even. "Your daughter destroyed property. She pays, you pay. This ends now." Karen laughed, a low, threatening chuckle. "Ends now? Oh, honey, you're just getting started. You think you can intimidate us? You've underestimated my family. Don't worry, we'll make this unforgettable." I left with a pit in my stomach and a fire in my veins. The next few days blurred into a cycle of surveillance footage. Insurance calls and neighbors whispering about the Karen drama that had taken over the block. Every run-in with Karen and her daughter felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of vipers. One wrong move and everything could explode. Then I found the footage that changed everything. Late one night, the daughter crept back into the driveway, tools in hand, headed straight for the Tesla. I froze. This wasn't entitlement anymore. This was malicious. My phone shook in my hand as I whispered to myself, "This ends tonight." If they thought they could push me around, they were about to learn that crossing me had consequences far beyond a cracked windshield. I set up lights and cameras around the driveway that night, determined to catch them in the act. My Tesla sat under the harsh glare of floodlights, every dent and scratch exposed like evidence. Around midnight, I saw the movement on the monitor. Cho crept toward the car again, gloved hands clutching a metal crowbar. My stomach dropped, but I kept my composure and gripped the phone. Just as she raised the tool, headlights cut across the yard. Her mom's SUV roared back into the cul-de-sac, but this time it felt different, like an armored car rolling in. Karen's face had hardened into something feral. "Do it," she hissed. Before anything could happen, and I dialed 911. "We have someone trespassing, armed and about to damage property," I told the operator, my voice steadier than I felt. The dispatcher promised help was on the way. I hunkered behind a tree, watching as the daughter froze mid-swing, hesitation creeping in. Karen barked orders, but the bravado dissolved. Sirens arrived seconds later, red and blue strobes cutting across the street, reflecting off the shattered windshield. For the first time all week, I felt a rush of relief. Karen's face drained of color. Her daughter dropped the crowbar, hands trembling, while officers quickly secured the scene. Statements were taken, questions asked, and the balance of power finally shifted. The next morning, my lawyer, called. "They're looking at serious charges," he said. "And the civil suit?" "You're in a strong position. 6 figures is realistic." I looked at my Tesla, battered but intact. Every crack and dent told the story of entitlement pushed too far, but it also told a story of patience, persistence, and refusing to be bullied. HOA Karen had tried to turn the neighborhood into her personal kingdom, but she and her daughter had crossed a line they couldn't come back from. Neighbors who'd been reluctant to speak now offered quiet nods of solidarity. Rumors of Karen's obsession with control spread fast. By now, it was clear. The streets she thought she owned weren't hers. Not really. As I drove the Tesla to the body shop, slow, cautious, savoring each mile, I couldn't help but smirk. Justice wasn't just about fines and repairs. It was about proving that entitlement, no matter how loud, has limits. Karen's daughter might have smashed my car first, but in the end, it was she and her mother left exposed, humiliated, and accountable. I got my Tesla back, my street back, and a story that would become infamy for anyone who enjoys HOA drama. Sometimes you just have to let karma do its work and make sure it's filmed. If you thought this HOA Karen saga was wild, just wait for what's coming next. Don't even think about scrolling away. Smash that subscribe button right now. Hit like your life depends on it. And drop a comment telling me what you would do if this happened to you. Trust me, you do not want to miss the chaos coming in the next story.